The Director General of the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, Captain Musa, who joins us now to speak to the level of compliance with these rules and other related developments. Good morning, Captain. Thank you for joining us on the program. So tell us, what has changed since Saturday when international flight activities resumed in the country? How has it been?
Good morning. Thank you for having me on this program this morning. Since the international flights started, little or no hitches along the way. It's been good so far, so good. Although it's not all the approved airlines that have resumed operations, some will resume a couple of days down the road. So we're good to go for now. Nothing much happening. It's been smooth sailing.
Well, what about the compliance with COVID-19 protocols? What do they look like on the part of travelers and the airlines?
Most of them have complied. They had a few hitches here and there that people did not comply with, but it's not their fault. Some people did their tests earlier on before they came, and unfortunately, because the validity of the test is now 96 hours expired, so they had to do a retest. But nothing significant. I'll say compliance has largely been complied, has been met with.
Now, there's approval for some 14 airlines to operate across Lagos and Abuja airports, while restrictions are placed on 8 others and the nationals of those countries. Has there been further changes since flight operations commenced on Saturday?
Okay, airlines that have put restrictions on Nigeria put restrictions on. That's a policy, government policy decision that was taken at the presidential task force level, and it's the only body that can review that policy. But probably there'll be some discussions with the embassies and how things go. Then the presidential task force will come out with a position on that. And also at this point, I'd like to make it clear, some of the airlines that were not allowed to operate in Nigeria had nothing to do with the issue of restrictions in Nigeria. They just needed to comply with the regulations of the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority for foreign airlines operating into Nigeria. Some have already done that. So hopefully in the next couple of days, when they are ready to start, they'll be approved to resume operations into Nigeria.
Now, Captain, tell us, are there ongoing talks with those countries to resume the functionality of the BASA agreements?
Not that I'm aware of at this moment.
Okay, so travelers, one of the issues is the fact that travelers have complained about the high cost of airline tickets. Is there any measure that has been put in place to address this? Of course, the airlines will say that they want to make their profits. Of course, they're only allowed to carry 200 passengers, and some of them have the capacity to carry at least 300 passengers. But is there any measure that has been put in place to address this issue?
It's a bit of difficulty. Air tickets commercial issues with the airlines. And the restriction to 200 passengers is to have to be able to control the amount of people that fly into Nigeria on a daily basis, because we have been given a limit of 1,280 passengers daily for Lagos and the same for Abuja Airport. So if we don't restrict the number of passengers each airline carries and the number of flights that come into either airport daily basis, will not be able to control, still within the limits of the number of daily passengers given to us by the PTF.
But how long are we going to see these numbers? Is there possibly going to be a rise in these numbers in the coming days?
I believe very shortly the numbers will increase. And these numbers are strictly limited by the testing capabilities of approved clinics to do the COVID test, the 7-day COVID test on arrival. That is the limitation. But I believe as more clinics are certified by the relevant authorities, this number will increase. I'm sure probably within the next 1 week or thereabout, we'll see a gradual increase in the number of passengers being allowed into Nigeria. Subsequently, airlines will get more frequency and or be allowed to carry more passengers per flight.
Now, for some of the aircrafts that have been grounded since the lockdown and now that they have resumed flight operations, how do you ascertain the safety of the flights for the airlifting of passengers?
Well, each country has its own civil aviation authority, and it's their responsibility to ensure all the flights, all the aircrafts under their own registration, or all the airlines with the relevant air operating certificate of the country. It's their duty to ensure that all the aircrafts and flights are airworthy and the pilots are positioned to fly safely, like we did in Nigeria. So it's the responsibility of the Civil Aviation Authority. We'll have the international standards and recommended practices as mandated by International Civil Aviation Organization, and all countries are expected to comply with that.
Now, for local airlines such as Air Peace that fly international routes, now, what's the state of their operations?
Well, whenever Air Peace is ready to resume operations, we'll give them the approval. I've spoken to them, and they need a few days before they resume international operations, and they'll be taken care of.
All right, Captain, now, only Lagos and Abuja international airports have been reopened for now. Any news about the reopening of other international airports?
Yeah, there are certain logistics being put on ground, certain infrastructure to be put in the airports, namely Kano, Port Harcourt, and Enugu. And also they need to have some clinics within those cities that are certified to carry the COVID-19 tests. Once that is done, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, operations will gradually start at those 3 other international airports.
And how many passengers daily are we looking at these airports?
I cannot say for now. And I think it also depends on the number of certified clinics, the capacity of the number of certified clinics to carry COVID-19 tests in those cities. Hopefully we'll have enough clinics that have been certified by relevant authorities to have a high number of passengers allowed to fly into those cities.
Oh, how about the issue of timing now? How long does it take? I mean, when an incoming flight comes in, how long does it take with the COVID-19 protocols? How long do the passengers have to be at the airports when they return and even when they're leaving the country?
When they return, it's not much. That's why we have the online platform where you fill all the relevant travel information, all the information that been needed by the health authorities, so that when you arrive in Nigeria, that's minimum delay. Once the passenger arrives, you just go through the public health services. They take your temperature and check you for any other COVID symptoms, such as high temperature, cold, sneezing, anything. Then you just go through. If you are cleared, you just go through the normal arrival procedures through the customs, other security, immigration, other security agencies, such as custom and others. Not much of addition of a delay. It's not much.
What about the issue of lodging and accommodation of the international flight crews? How is that being handled locally for safety?
Well, it's not a local issue. It's an international standards. Crews are allowed to lay over for up to 48 hours, but they'll be restricted to their hotels, expected to stay in their hotel rooms for that period. That's international standard. It's not a local thing. That's the global international standards, and that's what we insist the airlines comply with. And so far, so good. Quite a majority of the airlines come and turn back. Just a few that do overnight stay for 24 hours, and they leave the following day. So not much of a problem.
For domestic airlines operations now, would there be any updates that travelers would like to know about?
And the domestic, nothing much. So far, so good. It's been a pleasant surprise. The level of compliance of the health protocols put in place for the domestic airlines. Nothing much for now. Nothing to update. It's been a good, pleasant experience.
Okay, now what about commercial flights which have actually kicked off operations to the Akanu Ibiam airport at Enugu after the runway was refurbished? Are there further developments that the public need to be aware of?
Well, the airport was closed because of the runway. The runway has been fixed and there's been continuous upgrade of the facilities. The runway lights have been fixed, beautiful if you see the pictures, and upgraded navigation facilities. And also the terminal is undergoing a significant renovation. So it's all good news coming from Akanu Airport, thanks to the effort of the Honorable Minister of Aviation to renovate all the international airports to meet all the international standards.
Now, yeah, we know that the number of COVID-19 cases, yes, it appears to be flattening, but then, of course, this does not mean that the end is here already. Do you think that we will get back to shutting down the airspace again if the number of cases continue to rise?
Well, that will be my worst nightmare. I don't hope we get back to the point of shutting down the airports, but the health authorities are monitoring the situation, not only the air transport, any system in Nigeria that is responsible for significant spike in the number of COVID cases. I believe the responsible government will take all the necessary action to deal with that situation.
Now, we have a partial reopening now at the airport, but at what point do you think that we'll get into full resumption of activities?
Well, I can only project, hopefully in a couple of months, airports will resume to normal operations. But don't forget, the forecast for international air transport, it's not going to get back to pre-COVID-19 levels till at the earliest, at the end of 2021. So even if we open fully, the traffic level is going to be much lower than the pre-COVID levels. So it's going to take another 12 to 18 months for the traffic to start recovering to that level.
Now, let's talk about the infrastructure now. How is the NCAA responding to other infrastructure gaps at the domestic airports?
Well, we are working closely with the Federal Airports Authority, which is the statutory body responsible for they own and manage around those airports. And we've had significant improvement in some of the basic requirements of those airports. After the airports were closed down due to the COVID-19, before the opening of the airports, we worked together and a lot of infrastructure they had to upgrade and put in place before the airports were approved by Civil Aviation Authority to resume operations.
All right, Captain, would like you to tell us now, do we have any update on the resuscitation of Nigerian Airways?
Well, I don't know about Nigerian Airways. I know the government is working on having a new national carrier, and that is being handled at the level of the Ministry of Aviation. We are regulators. We work with the airlines to ensure they comply with all our excellent regulations, and any new airline coming into place will have requirements for them to meet. Even the national airline will have to meet with those requirements. So once they are ready, they come to us. We'll work with them to ensure that all due processes are complied with.
So what are your projections for the international flight operations in the coming days, apart from the COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, I think we will see more airlines within the next 1 week. A lot more airlines will start operating into Nigeria. I think so far, as of yesterday, we've only had British Airways, Middle East Airlines, and Emirates and Ethiopian. But over the next couple of days, we'll see an increase in the number of approved airlines operating into Nigeria. And hopefully, within the next few weeks, within a short period of time, we'll be able to increase the number of authorized passengers that will be allowed to fly into Nigeria.
I would like to thank you, Director General of the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, Captain Musa Nuhu. Thank you for speaking with us on Business Morning.
Thank you very much, and you have a great day.